Katie Allison here from Mid Sussex Sports Therapy, and I'm going to take you through a trunk and spine mobility session. So we're going to start off kneeling on all fours, 4-point kneeling. So hands and knees on your mat. Fair weight distributed fairly evenly between the hands and the knees, and between the left and the right side of the body. Pushing the little fingers into the mat and relaxing the shoulders and the shoulder blades down the body. So we're going to start off, as I say, from this position, and we're going to go into what we call a cat stretch to start with. So we're going to drop our head down, looking towards our knees, looking between our arms. We're going to start to lift our tummies up as high as we can and create a curve through the spine, from the head right through to the bottom of the spine, pulling up, flexing the spine, bending it over, and then going the other way. Again, drawing the shoulder blades down, starting to lift the head up, pushing the bottom up and away, creating an extension through the spine, and then going back towards a full flexion of the spine, that lovely cat stretch. On the out breath, going into an extension. Not too far, not overextending through any part of the lower back or the mid back. Starting with the head dropping down, lifting up through the spine, flexing again, increasing in range of motion on each repetition. So as we move through these cat and camel kind of postures and movements, we're creating some flexibility and movement through our spine. We're focusing on different areas of the spine, on the lower spine, the mid spine, and the upper spine. Leading with the bottom this time. And then coming to a neutral position. And then we're going to do something which can often be called thread the needle. This is a mobility exercise for our mid-spine. So I'm going to take my right hand and I'm going to thread it through my eye of the needle, which is here between the leg and the arm. Threading it through. You are taking a bit of weight onto your left wrist and your left side, so that's not comfortable. You can always come down to your elbow as well and thread from your elbow is an alternative option. Threading through, so I'm taking my arm, my shoulder as much as possible through the eye of the needle and allowing a twist to happen through that mid-thoracic spine. Holding it for a second or two and then coming out of it and repeating on the other side. Sliding the back of the arm along the ground, creating that twist through the mid-spine. And the other side, we'll do this one on the elbow. Sliding that bottom arm through, creating that twist through the mid-back, and back up again, and the other side. Remembering to breathe as you go through the movements. So a couple of times each side, and then we'll go back to those cat and camel poses, but we're then going to take the bottom towards the heels. So as we come up into that full flexion, relaxing the shoulders. I don't want to see shoulders up my ears, relaxing the shoulders down, full flexion. We're then going to slowly take our bottom towards our heels. So my weight now is on my legs, not much on my hands. Bottom towards heels. You're going to start to feel a stretch through this part of your lower back. For some of you, taking it to that position might be enough. For others, you might be able to go a little bit further. But what the key is, keeping that tuck under that posterior tilt of the pelvis. Tuck under the pelvis, keeping that tuck on, so we're not losing it as we come back. We're keeping it there, and that helps create a bit of stretch and movement through our lower back, which can often get locked down and immobile. If you can, take the bottom all the way towards the heels, and that's great. Keeping that tuck under the pelvis, pointing forwards, and then slowly stretching the arms forwards, coming towards In yoga terms, we might call it child pose or swan. Stretching forwards, bottom reaching backwards. Again, I'm trying not to stick my bottom out. I'm trying to keep a little bit of a tuck under to keep that stretch happening for the lower back. And then from this position, we're going to take the arms out in front of us, and we're going to take the hands and creeping the fingers. I'm sort of moving the fingers across to the left-hand side of the mat in this case, and I'm using a bit of resistance in my right hip. So my right hip is dropping backwards towards the back right-hand corner of the mat. My fingers are creeping forwards towards the top left-hand corner of the mat. So I'm creating that diagonal. And a nice stretch all the way down this right-hand side. It's a right-hand sided lateral kind of stretch from my bottom up to my fingertips. And the more I sort of creep this right hand over and then sit back into that right hip, I create a lovely stretch. I'm trying to relax the shoulders. I don't want them hunched up by my ears. I'm trying to create space between shoulder and ear, but at the same time creating that stretch. And for me, I feel that kind of through the armpit, through the back of the shoulder, and then a little bit through the rib cage as it comes down into that kind of mid-lower back. Relax here and breathe. And allow the stretch to move through that lateral side of the body. And then when you're ready, we're going to go over the other side. And it might be that you're focusing on one side more than the other, left more than right, or right more than left. I'm showing you both sides here. Again, so my left hip now is dropping back towards that corner. I'm creating that resistance through my left hip. Then my left hand is creeping over to the right side of my mat to create that stretch all down the left hand side of the body. Relaxing the shoulders down. Keep creeping the fingers if you can. And creating that stretch down that left hand side of the body. Then I'm just going to come up and go into a few gentle kind of cat-camel movements, just to get a bit of movement through my back, which has been in a flexed and stretched position for a little bit of time. And a rock left and right. To get a bit of movement. I'm going to come back over onto my back. And we're going to have a go at some of those movements, but on our back this time. So for some of us, we might find it easier to achieve that mobility through the spine and through the trunk when we're on all fours, on our knees, hands and knees. For others of us, we might find it easier when we're lying on our backs. So I'm going to come down, lie on my mat. I'm just going to pop a little pillow under my head as well. A bit more comfortable for me, takes the tension out of my neck. My feet are flat on the floor, my knees are bent. My feet are facing forward, so just double check your feet are facing forward and not turned out or turned in. My bottom's on the ground, my sacrum is heavy, my pelvis is heavy, sinking into the ground. And then we're going to go into that, similar to that cat-camel, we're going to get that rocking of the pelvis backwards and forwards. So I'm pushing the bony parts of my pelvis, my hip bones away, and creating a bit of space between the mat and my lower back, and then I'm pulling the pelvis, the bony bits of the front towards me, and I'm flattening the lumbar spine against the mat. My bottom's just starting to peel away. It's not actually peeling away, but I can feel that it would if I carried on. So I'm rocking forwards, creating a bit of extension through the lower back, and then rocking backwards, creating a bit of flexion through the lower back. So creating a bit of movement through that lumbar spine, which again, as I said, is an area that can often get very locked down, particularly if you've had pain or injury through your lower back. So I'm creating the movement to get a bit of mobility through that lumbar spine. And you may find that when you start off with this movement, you need to use as many muscles as you can find. So the glutes are involved, the legs are involved, everything's trying to create some movement. But as you get that kind of movement going, you can then relax some of those other muscles and think about it more as an abdominal exercise, and that the abs are actually creating a lot of that movement, and the glutes are loose and not doing anything. Now I'm not lifting my bottom off the ground, I'm just creating movement through my lumbar spine, and I'm almost thinking it like my sacrum is rocking backwards and forwards. Your sacrum sitting here on the base of your spine, and you're rocking backwards and forwards over that sort of sacral dish, effectively. Creating that movement through the pelvis and the lower back. And then when you've done 5, 6, 7 repetitions, we're then going to roll the pelvis towards you and start to lift the bottom off the table, so you're off the mat, sorry. So you're going a little bit higher with that movement, and then we're going to come back down again. And then on the next one, you can go a little bit higher again, rolling the pelvis towards you, rolling over and pulling up, lifting. Using the abdominal muscles and the glute muscles now at this point in time. Keeping my legs nice and straight, my knees aren't flopping out to the side, they're not dropping in. I'm keeping everything nice and straight and forward as I'm lifting up. My ribs connected, my abdominals are working, my glutes are turned on. And then as I come back down again, I'm coming from the mid-spine, from the breastbone, I'm dropping down and then rolling back through the spine. Trying to keep my feet nice and loose, rolling through kind of an imprinted spine and then back to a neutral position. We do that one more time. Pulling the pelvis towards you, starting to lift up. Sometimes I find it easier to think about it as a sort of tail I'm pulling as I'm lifting up one vertebra at a time. It's a point where I've still got control, and then on the out breath I'm relaxing through the breastbone and one vertebra at a time, rolling back down to that mat, controlling it with my abdominal muscles, through imprint and back to a neutral spine. And then coming back up seated again. So those exercises have given you a bit of mobility, a bit of movement through the trunk and through the spine, in 4 points on hands and knees, but also the kind of opposite version, I suppose, on your back. And therefore have a go at both of them and see which one gives you the most success, the most kind of movement through your spine. Thanks for watching. See you again soon.